Hi! In this video I will delve into a very present but barely spoken about topic in MMORPGs. Why you should LFG. If you play multiplayer games, I'll assume you've had to find people to play with at some point. Now, there are a lot of different levels of what finding people could mean. It all depends on the game you're playing, what your goals are, the time you want to invest, as well as the type of people you want to play with, and so on. I'll be talking about MMOs since they seem to be the genre where LFG matters the most, seeing that you have to find groups for yourself, rather than just light in the game, find people for you, and do all the matchmaking process by itself while you just wait on a queue. Although there is a part of MMOs that you can just queue for, the majority of the most serious and fulfilling content you'll do will require specific people. And that's where LFG comes in. LFG stands for Looking for Group. It is a system a lot of us are familiar with, but we don't really think about how much it affects us. It is probably the most convenient thing ever invented for any sort of co-op game, since you're able to find the exact people that supposedly will match your expectations and help you clear the content. Before I get into why I think you should LFG, I'd like to say that as gamers, we change, and we end up wanting more and more things over time. At first, a game is just fun, and it doesn't matter what you're doing on it or who you're playing with. As you get older, games can be an excuse to socialize as well. But at some point, you end up having your own goals on them, and they start to be something a lot more meaningful than just hanging out or passing time with someone. For those reasons and those goals that I believe many of us have, I think this video is important, and could really help those who are struggling to start pursuing what they want in a game they play. Also, before I start jumping into groups, the best advice I can give is, please do your homework. Study the fights, study the strats people are asking for, look up a guide, anything. Always be as transparent as you can with how much you know about the encounter, because people can immediately tell that you don't know a fight. And at the end of the day, everyone wants someone who's chill and knows what to do. So yeah, get yourself ready before jumping into this and getting frustrated. Now here's why I think you should LFG. We play online games, mostly to play with friends. But friends are not always around. Plus, with how adult life goes, it can be very difficult to have time for each other since people's schedules won't always align. So we end up having to find a feel for the spot, a rando as we call it. I would say that is how most people find out about LFG. If someone plays an mmorpg for a while and is interested in doing most of the content, they will probably find out about LFG. Maybe through a friend, maybe zone chats, eventually they will hear about it. And once they know it exists, it can change their whole perspective of the game. The discovery of the LFG is not always an easy process. A lot of people, since they came to play with their friends, and that is usually their main reason to be playing the game, will be opposed to finding randoms to play with. Even with such a convenient system, people will still refuse to use it. Sometimes saying things like, if I have to play by myself or with other people I don't know, might as well just go play a single player game. Which is a valid point, but what usually happens is, those people end up not playing the game anymore. The chances of you always having your friends playing the games you enjoy is honestly not very high. People tend to change a lot. Downtime exists, stuff gets boring, so it almost feels like you must learn to enjoy or at least use this system if you plan to keep playing the game for years and years consistently. With LFG, you can do content whenever you want. So instead of waiting around on a guild or FC event to farm a mount or some specific content, you can just run it whenever you want by finding randoms to do it. The use of LFG ain't easy though, and it's not always reliable either. In fact, a lot of people have had really bad experiences with it, and that ends up being one of the reasons they don't want to LFG anymore. We tend to see streamers like Asmongold, for example, struggling to get their reclears due to the poor LFG experience we see in WoW. Personally, I usually have a good time when I LFG. People are polite and willing to listen or teach if anyone needs help, and we get the stuff done in a reasonable amount of time, if not an easy one-shot. There shouldn't be much of an issue because you can filter who joins your party with the system, so as long as you can decide the type of experience you want, you'll have just the right fit of players for you in theory. So it is a great system, but it has its flaws. Know how to pick your people at the end of the day. This is a part of the LFG that isn't really a built-in system in the game, but rather specific Discord servers that you need to be aware of in order to recruit people. Those are usually for making a static or a core, not much for a quick run or just finding a random. But instead, finding long-term players who are willing to commit themselves to weeks, months of raid progression with you. Whether this can be considered LFG or not, I have no idea. All I know is a recruiter server can really open a world of opportunities for you. Even the most shy and socially anxious player can find a group that fits them if they just search for a group in there. I would argue that most of Final Fantasy XIV's high success rate in raiding is due to people often using recruiters. Once you have enough experience raiding and meeting new people while also utilizing LFG for clears or finding new groups, you realize how much you can change as a player. And that can bring a lot of questions into mind. Especially since in MMOs, a lot of our bonding and socializing might come from raiding and doing harder content with other people. The first few friends you make might or might not be the ones who will teach you the most in your raiding or gaming career, which makes you grateful but also brings the question, were we ever friends? Or was it just convenient? That in itself is something that can be said about a lot of things in life. A lot of good things in relationships can come from convenience too, don't get me wrong. But my point here is more like, did we use each other? I feel like that's a very common thought in the MMO genre, especially in games where the community is not as close-knitted and caring. And that's exactly how something like the LFG system can make you feel like. It's convenient to always be able to find the right people for the right task at any time, but what actual connections are being made there? Of course, you don't have to care about every person you meet. You shouldn't expect to befriend everyone. But it's also kind of sad when you spend a significant amount of time online doing what you love with a bunch of people that share your love for that thing. However, no real connections are made from that. And it's even worse since mmorpgs are considered one of the most social game genres. So this whole experience might make you feel distant from your friends or the people you first met playing that game, since you feel so independent now that you know you can always find someone else to run stuff with you. It makes you think people are quite replaceable, which can be a very weird feeling, and it takes time to get used to. Even with the downsides, I still think if you're a brand new raider or just a veteran that never gave raiding a shot, you should definitely put yourself out there. Find a group, make some friends, and see your social and raiding skills blossom from this small act of courage. I say this because I used to be very casual back in the day, but I wasn't casual because I wanted to. I just thought I didn't have a choice. I was too scared to go find a group, and I was basically rooting myself on my friends and being completely dependent on them to pursue my own goals. After all those years playing the same or multiple games, meeting new people, making friends, losing friends, you start to make your own conclusions about this whole topic. Also realizing the LFG systems are not always reliable unless you know how to use them. You are now a confident player. You know your mechanical and social skills are good because of your past and your success as a raider. But most importantly, you, hopefully, learned a bit about yourself and relationships. You realize how much the people around you can change you. A lot of raiders will opt to have a core or a static outside of their friend groups, to avoid conflicts, for example. Others would rather only raid with their friends. Others will become besties with what just seemed to be a group of randos at first glance. But different MMOs will have different cultures and demands when it comes to a guild. In WoW, for example, not only the game has several buffs for those raiding in the same guild, there's also a culture of raiding as a guild, a tradition. In Final Fantasy XIV, however, although that culture still exists, it is not as present. Plus, you have no reason to be raiding in the same FC, since FC buffs are not that big of a deal. So a lot of people prefer to raid outside of their FC and just keep them as good friends, while showing their sweaty and stressed side to their raid mates instead. So whatever MMO you're playing, I encourage you to give yourself a chance. Put yourself out there and see how a few steps can change your entire experience in the game. At the end of the day, what you end up doing is up to you. We're all very different people, and our preferences shape our realities. So do your best to enjoy yourself and the connections you make. Do what you want, and if that isn't working, unless you're being a weirdo, there's probably nothing wrong with you. You're just hanging with the wrong people. Good thing you can always look for a group, right? Thank you for watching. I really hope this video showed the pros and cons of LFG and maybe motivated some people to get out there and seek some change in their raiding experience. I had a blast making this video, and this topic will always be very important to me. If you do have something to say about all of this and would like to share your thoughts or experience, please do comment down below. I would love to hear other inputs and people's perspectives on this topic. Thank you so much for making it to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.